Welcome to another in the series, The Sip and the Chat. Welcome to another in the series, Sip and a Chat. I'm your host, LeLeith Tomlinson, and with me today, as we continue to celebrate Child's Month, is a very bright Jamaican all the way out of the Garden Parish, I might add, St. Anne, and her name is Tasheera Thompson, the head girl over there at St. Hilda's High School. I want to say welcome today to our program. I thank you so very much for commuting from so far. And she will explain, as you can see, she's very decorated with her different responsibilities. But just to start off, we want to continue to encourage persons to understand that we have to empower today for a brighter tomorrow. And so I'm going to ask Mr. Tasheera to introduce to Jamaica and the diaspora. Who is Tasheera?
Thank you, Dr. T. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tasheera Thompson, as was said by Dr. T, a student from St. Hilda's. Tasheera is an overachiever. She's a young lady who prides herself in giving service to all that she can. And sometimes it might seem as if, how are you so young? What service can you give? But I've learned over my few years on earth that giving your time is sometimes the best gift you can ever give.
Right.
I pride myself in always doing well in everything I do, academic-wise and extracurricular activities. I'm a woman of God, so I believe that everything I do should reflect who He really is. And really, that is Tasheera. She's for the people.
Excellent, Tasheera. And could you just speak to us a little about, the different badges that you wear that will speak to your responsibilities at school?
Okay, so yesterday, actually, or the day before, I was announced as the head girl of my school. I served as the deputy head girl the year before.
Congrats.
Thank you so much. For the last 2 years, I've been the president of 2 clubs. I was the president of the Journalism and Debate Society for 2 consecutive years, and the Democracy Club for 3 consecutive years, actually. I'm also the president of the Sixth Form Association at my school, and I partake in other initiatives outside of St. Hilda's. I'm the public relations officer for the subcommittee of the National Youth Council for St. Anne. Excellent.
Wow, what a portfolio. And you have only just begun. Now, today when we think about our young people, a lot of people seem to focus on the negatives, and we know that there are negatives. But speak to us from where you sit, Tasheera. How do you see Jamaica? And what do you see a bright future in Jamaica?
Most definitely, Dr. T. We have a very bright future. Being only 18 and being in different spaces with so many young people from all across Jamaica and even the wider world, there's so much potential. We're so amazing. And I say that humbly. But the way we have grown, and I believe that some part of it can be given to technological advancements. And we know there are the negative aspects of it. But I've seen where because we have technology, we're able to connect as youths. We have such bright aspirations. You have persons who, because of different initiatives we have and forums and persons like yourself, Dr. T, who invest in us, we grow and we blossom. And based on my friends and colleagues who I know what they're looking for, I know Jamaica has a bright future ahead. If the current generation does what they're supposed to.
It says that youth in other phase, it's a revolution waiting to happen. In other words, I believe that we have, I say we, like, I'm still 16, that as young people, there is enough resources out there, positive resources that can be effectively garnered and utilized, to make Jamaica really the place to live, grow, and experience all the positive that is possible. Talk to us a little bit about what are some of the debilitating conditions in Jamaica and what you think could be done about them to ameliorate the situations.
Okay, so within the school now, we have one of the issues of persons being barred from school, for instance, for not being properly groomed. Now, there are 2 sides to the story. Rules are to be observed. That's why society is the way it is. We have laws and regulations. But also, we know it's within our right to have an education. And I believe one of the biggest pressing issues within schools specifically is how we communicate. A lot of times when you hear students are barred from entering school, it's really lack of communication. Hi there, why did you come today with this short uniform? How can I be of assistance to you to better help you? What is the issue? Perhaps it's financial issues, or perhaps you just felt rebellious. But I believe that if we are able to communicate better, it will alleviate some issues. And also for resources. Sometimes there are enough resources to help us as students, as young people. Sometimes there aren't, and accessibility. One thing I've learned is that sometimes it seems as if Jamaica is Kingston alone. Nowhere else matters.
And there's beautiful, beautiful St. Anne.
Beautiful, beautiful St. Anne.
Right. And that is so important. So as we want to get deeper into this matter, when we think about students of today, so for example, it was just this morning I heard on the news that over 200 students received letters to go to their parents because they came to school and it had to do with their skin color. It seems like bleaching is still on an issue that we grapple with our young people. Why do you think this is happening, and how do we try to unlearn what some of the individuals have, and really to get this kind of cognitive reforming where young people and reshaping where young people begin to accept themselves, especially culturally, and for their skin color?
So the present issue is colorism, and we know that Jamaica is out of many one people, but sometimes we can see the segregation between the different cultures and ethnicities within the country. It stems from just hating ourselves because we are taught to do so. And I always bring it back to slavery, and that a lot of the trauma from slavery is passed down to our parents and then from their parents, and it's just indoctrinated within us. Oftentimes in society, you see where persons of lighter skin complexion gets more opportunities. Sometimes you see persons who hold shows like yourself, Dr. T, who they're the ones who are the face. And when you have something negative, it's a black child who is malnourished and needs help. So that pushes or urges young people to think that, hey, I have to bleach my skin to look a certain way to be seen as important. And that's where the issue lies or stems from. So it's now our responsibility and those who are older than us to remind us that we're beautiful. You have parents where they might have a daughter and a son, or whichever gender, and one is of a lighter skin complexion, and one is of a darker skin complexion, and the dark one is always treated less bad. So it's now time for us to relearn or re-educate ourselves, or accept ourselves rather, that we're beautiful. Black, white, brown, lighter, darker, we're all beautiful, and stop making it feel as if opportunities are only for those of a certain skin complexion. Because even as Jamaicans, we really don't love ourselves. And I always see it within the tourism industry. When I was younger, you would have persons, missionaries, different persons who would come to the different schools to assist, and you'll see how the students react to them, praising them as if they're gods. And that just we make ourselves inferior to them already, not realizing that we are treasures. We are absolutely amazing.
It's just something that I think it's so important that we have to crush. We thought the issue had subsided, but now again we're seeing a resurgence where if you're not light-skinned, you don't think that you are at a certain place in society. And every accomplishment, one of the things that I find very under my skin is when, like for example, somebody of dark complexion wins something or finds themselves in a space. You know, it's like such a like we don't have a right to be here. You know what I'm saying? So I want you to talk to young people out there about their identity and the need to affirm, and especially from like you are a person of faith. Why is it important to understand that you are special? You know, just talk to them about that.
We grew up learning that our African ancestry makes us strong. And though our African ancestry is associated with so many trauma and negative aspects, they were strong people. And we're black people. We're so beautiful. And I can't make you believe that you have to believe it yourself. But just remember that this complexion of your skin is not what makes you who you are. It's what's within you. And if you don't think you're beautiful, you can't expect anyone else to think you're beautiful. So I challenge all the young people out there to look at yourselves in the mirrors, boys, girls, and just remind yourself that I am beautiful, I am powerful, and I am strong. And even because you're black, you're biasly saying, to me, even more beautiful, even more strong. And I'm talking all shades of black. Racism is something I can understand. You hate me because I'm not similar to you in perhaps culture or color, sorry. But you're black like me. Why do you think you're superior? And stop giving persons of different skin tones the superiority. Because if you tell yourself that you're beautiful, nobody can change that. Confidence is definitely the key.
Right. And what you hold on to, your knowledge makes you powerful.
Definitely.
I want to get to a little bit to Tasheera. You interact with students from all walks of life as a head girl and just as a student at the school. One of the things that we're discussing in the whole matter of Youth Month is the whole matter of parenting. Do you think that we've gotten it wrong? Why we have the generation that we have, or it's just, is it something in the water today? What has caused this divide, or, you know, it seems as if the parents are not in control? What do you think is happening there?
I don't think we've gotten it wrong. Remember, parenting comes in so many different forms. And I always say, oh, parents, they're only doing this once. It's their first time doing it too.
And most of them didn't get the script, right?
Most of them didn't get the script. So sometimes even as young people, we have to be understanding and extend grace to our parents. There are different households, and the way you are raised is really dependent on who is within your home. We have this ideology that if you have a mother and a father, that child must be a specific way, and that's not the case. But Jamaica's issue is broken homes, where most times you find there's a mother figure but not a father figure. And this is maybe directed to the young men out there, where when they don't have a positive father figure, somebody to emulate, they tend to use other models. I did my SBA actually on the effect of dancehall music on youths and violence. And I found at the end of it that the music they listen to do have an influence on them. And because some of these artists, they idolize them, whatever they say, they emulate. But they don't understand that a lot of these artists are very educated young men, and they just give you what you tell them you want from them.
So if we demand better music from them, they will produce better music.
Somewhat, because they feed the mass. It is what you're the ones that are influencing.
You're the consumer.
You're the consumer.
Exactly.
And they have to do what the consumer needs. But it's not just that the artists are negative in any way, because a lot of recent or younger Jamaican dancehall artists, they will sing music that is different topics, topics. But the most thing you'll find out is just sex, women, drugs, and different negative things that these young men take on. But if they look closer to these artists, they realize that some of these things they don't do themselves. But back to the topic of homes and parents, I believe that everything starts from the home, or most things start from within the home. And I've seen where there's growth within parenting within Jamaica. There was a time where once you don't agree with your mother, you know you're going to be hit or slapped, or there was a very thin line between abuse and discipline. And I've seen where persons are actively trying to unlearn their own trauma. And I can use my mother as an example. When my mother was younger, as a black woman and as the darkest shade person in her family, she was not always treated well. And she could have passed it on to us. She could say, oh, you're black like such and such, so let me abuse you. But she has taken the initiative to unlearn certain things to ensure that she's a better parent for her children. And my other friends and those I interact with have said the same. Their parents are doing better. So I do see growth in parenting today, but I think the biggest issue of why students are so quote unquote out of control, most times the ones that come from broken homes. And the media, of course, the media plays a part, with bleaching specifically, where you see where most of the influencers that influencers, they bleach and they promote it actively, and you know, the BBLs and all the different body modifications that's
happening,
do.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm so grateful to hear you saying that we seem to be improving. And you see, one of the things I don't think that is being heard a lot is a positive in our country, whether it be on parenting. Now, yes, we have a lot of students who have deviated and things are happening, but like you said, and you touched it excellently from even a psychological perspective, to say that what we had was a lot of broken parents, a lot of hurting parents, a lot of broken homes, but now having been exposed to knowledge, even through dialogue, like, mommy, you don't have to be perfect. Whatever happened to you, mommy, we are the new family. You know what I'm saying? And I said this last night, that discipline is very distinguished from abuse.
Absolutely.
Discipline means to teach. And back in the day, even though, for example, my parents didn't know what they were saying in the way it is being understood now, when they were about to give you a hinding or a flogging or a spanking, they would say to you, I'm going to teach you a lesson. And that's what discipline does. But the tie up foot and, you know, persons have been late, cursing or have been thrown on them, that's totally abuse. I want you to talk to me a little bit about the whole matter of how some of the infrastructure that you see being put in place by the government now, and how do you think enough is being done, and what are some of the high points you think that they need to focus on to make Jamaica really a better place for young people?
Okay, so for most of the initiatives that I'm aware of, they're mostly by non-governmental organizations actually, and the governments always assist them. Once you write and you ask to get assistance, but some of the biggest issues is the funding. So we all have bright ideas. We all want to help each other. There's many young persons out there who have all the initiatives, but money is needed. That's it. We always hear money makes the world go around.
Yes, it does.
It really does. So that's one of the issues. And there's resources isn't short. That's one thing I can say. But sometimes access to these resources are short. Earlier I mentioned that sometimes it seems as if Jamaica is Kingston only. A lot of the other areas, other parishes, they're not as aware of what's happening or aware of the resources available to them to use, whether it's through academics, whether it's through different clubs, societies. For instance, when you have a debate competition, school is not just for learning, but it's to make you a well-rounded student. And coming out on different initiatives, meeting different people is necessary for this. You'll find out that there's a specific group of schools who might participate. And it's just that certain schools on my end, in my part, the northern side, etc., they're not made aware of these things as much, right? So that's one of the issues that we're facing too, to get children to be more open and to come out and to explore the world wider. But for the government, to my knowledge, as I've said, there's not much that I'm aware of other than the non-governmental organizations that I would learn more about. Or perhaps there are initiatives, but those ones that I know are more publicized, so it's easier for me to have access to that knowledge.
We had a little pre-discussion, and you said something to me that I found very, very interesting and enlightening and thought-provoking as well. I asked you, what is your career path? And you said?
Attorney at law. And
then I said to you on that very same note, as an attorney at law, your emphasis would be on criminal law. What would some of the first things that you would do and why? So can you tell Jamaica, because I think the minister, Mr. Trump, needs to hear this.
One of the things I saw recently that really, let me start by why I chose to become an attorney at law. Sure. Because for most of my life, I was going to be a medical doctor. And my family, we went through a traumatic experience of somewhat where I saw my brother's life flash before his eyes over something very simple. And I realized that we didn't have anyone in my family who we could call upon to be our voice. And that touched me, and I realized that, hey, I want to be the voice of persons who don't have a voice. I want to be that person who they can come to know that I'll always stand for their rights and always represent them, which is why I want to be an attorney at law. I believe that will be my entire mantra or focus, just to be the voice, not a voice, but the voice of my people. Mahadai Das, who is a poet from Guyana, she wrote this collection and it's called I Want to Be the Poetess of My People. And that really inspired me.
Right.
And I saw a picture a couple months ago of a jail, and there were about 15, 20 men on a small space, and they were curled up. And one of the things I've seen as just a young student just learning and starting out in law is that once you commit a crime of any level, you realize that you're dehumanized. So you're not treated as if you're still a human. And right is right and wrong is wrong, but your humanity should still remain intact. And I went to circuit court not so long ago with my great friend, Miss Bishop, who is an attorney at law. And I realized that oftentimes a lot of cases that should be dealt with now are always pushed back or thrown off or something. It's just a case where the system isn't set in a way where matters can be handled in an adequate time, a sufficient time. And that's something I would want to acknowledge as well, and just making information more accessible. So something I heard was that knowledge of the law is good and bad. So when you have knowledge of what the law is, you can use it to your own advantage. Lack of it can allow the legal system to use it to their advantage. I believe Jamaican people do not know their rights. They don't know what the rules, laws, and regulations of this country are. And I would definitely want to make that more open to them. Because accessible to them. Oftentimes we see simple altercations, specifically with younger people and police officers, because they're one of the legal personnel. And we realize that sometimes we see injustice being happen and we don't know that it's wrong, or what was said is wrong, both on the officer's part and the citizen's part. So those are just a few things I would want to tackle.
Wow. I'm sure Mr. Chuck wouldn't mind having you as one of those young attorneys, because I think just recently we heard him saying that a number of attorneys are being recruited to assist the police officers with case preparation. Wow, that is so powerful. I know St. Hilda's is not a co-ed, right? It is a single
sex.
So, but I'm sure in your own experience, do you think our young boys are at risk? Because a lot of people feel like young boys are not achieving, they're not on par with the girls. what is happening in the space? Because even though you go to a single sex school, I'm sure that you're seeing the spaces.
Definitely.
Are there boys out there who are doing well, and we don't have to be so hopeless?
Most definitely. That goes without question. I always ask, how is it a case where most times in the biggest positions you see men, but then you think that throughout their time they did nothing? How is it a case where most times the women are the face of everything, younger on, but when you have the bigger things, they're the ones who always get it? And I believe that men can be described as silent killers, quote unquote, not killing in its literal sense, but just silent weapons, rather. Recently, you know, the Costa Cup is coming on. I'm a football fan.
Right.
And Oceans High, they made history. The first school in that side, the northern side, to make it to the semifinals for the Costa Cup and the quarterfinals for the Champions Cup. And they're all young men who not only excel in their sport, but in academics. And we see all the different schools, both co-ed and all-boys schools, who they do well on the different programs. But speaking of my small circle of male friends, they're doing amazing things. And I do understand that there are certain cultures that are pushed that are negative. For instance, the wearing of the pants below your bottom. And I believe if they knew the history of what it means, they wouldn't do it. But lack of knowledge can be a real detrimental. But our men, our young boys, they are doing well. They are evolving. I've seen where, despite the negative connotations on them sometimes, they're breaking barriers and they're doing really good things. Always with a woman behind them, of course, but they're doing well.
Beside or in front?
Somewhere. There's always a young lady somewhere doing something.
I am really so, I'm really so happy to be here talking to you with Tasheera, because I think one of the challenges that we have when we have discussions with people is that if you're talking about Jamaica or talking about family, we spend so much time on the negative. And we do not seek to highlight the positive. So there are a lot of young men who are achieving. There are lots of schools that are not necessarily name brand schools that are doing well as well. I remember going to my own school, St. Catherine High School, and we were not we were referred to at once as a Cinderella of football. And today, I mean, I think it's the Manning Cup. We are in the quarterfinals as well. So sometimes we just have to be, I think from a leadership perspective, we have to be committed enough to this issue. If we think our boys are at risk, we need to invest more and be with them at every step of the way. It cannot be a one-year vision. It has to be a long-term vision. I just want to ask you as well, Tasheera, what has the role of faith played in your success and in your daily life?
It has played the absolute biggest role. Having faith is just believing in the unseen or the unknown. And it's having trust that it will happen in its right timing. Having faith in God and the plans He has for my life has been the biggest factor in who I am today. There are times where I ask myself, God, how am I going to do this? How am I going to be in 3 places at once? How am I going to do 2 tests and I have this initiative to do? But I always remember He says to have faith and to trust Him. And because of that faith, I've been able to do extraordinary things, things I never thought that I could do. And it's also built confidence within me, having faith. Oftentimes, too, you find where as you grow, sometimes you are seen as a threat to others, or your life makes them feel judged. And it can cause you to lose confidence or lose faith. But it's always persons around me, too, who are a reminder to always have faith, believe in God and believe in yourself.
Excellent. And I think it's so important as well. I want you to talk a little bit about the balance, because as I'm interacting with you, I see so much of myself in you. The balance of making sure that the students, academia, and we also do have a little fun.
Definitely.
Talk to us about that balance and how does that help in terms of wholesome development?
So as you rightfully said, wholesome development. It's very important. You're not just going to school for academics. I often see students who get in there and before school bell ring, they're out of there. No tired, they don't want to just get home. But being well-rounded, it helps you in the wider world, because when you're in school, sometimes you're sheltered. And when you step into the work field or even bigger, higher education, university, you falter. You don't know how to carry yourself. You can't speak, or you don't know how to write a resume. You don't know how to make an agenda for a meeting. Certain small or skills that you can get from being a part of certain initiatives, speaking skills, you lack them. Now, for the balance, as somebody who is busy 24/7, I am up, running. You always see me doing something. One of the biggest ways I find balance is having a agenda order of things. So everything I write down. I have a notepad. I have a checklist, because if it's one thing with me, when I can tick off something, it makes me feel accomplished. So I always encourage persons, have a little notepad, and you just write down the different things you need to do, whether it's your homework, you have this meeting at this time, and it helps to keep you very organized in what you're doing. And one of the good things for most schools I know in Jamaica is your clubs are scheduled for after school. It might not be as much schools who have that as it should, but I know a lot of schools that's the schedule. So for St. Helens, for instance, I have classes from 7:40 to 2:40, some days 3:20, and all extracurricular activity is after school. And then for private buses who we travel on, it picks us up at 4 p.m. So we get that time in our timetable stipulated that makes it much easier for us to excel during the day in our classes, and then in the afternoon we go to a club, an initiative. And one thing I know for sure is most schools, they have a few clubs. So one that you'll find interesting, whether it's art club, technical drawing club, democracy club, debating club, the arts, dancing club, whatever it is, there are clubs there. So just find the balance, because everyone's schedule is different too. My schedule might not be the same as yours, Dr. T, or anyone else's, but you can always find the balance.
Yeah, and that is so important too. We really want to emphasize parents, just give them that half an hour, to be engaged. Because even I think about Key Club as well, I'm thinking that the person I am today was that kind of Key Club interaction, going out on the projects, like you rightfully say, having meeting that gavel, silence, big up to all the Kiwanis and that, because it's really such a powerful leadership. But when I left high school, straight into Circle K, it's just such a powerful tool. As we're about to wrap up, I want you to talk to that child out there, in terms of, they're probably going through a rough patch right now and feel like giving up, a lot of students are doing SBs right now and so on. Talk to somebody, a student out there, about just holding on.
You spoke to me earlier, you asked me a question earlier about faith. And faith can move mountains. And to those who might not be religious or even believe in God, I want to remind you that you are strong. Even if you feel the weakest in any moment, remember that you're only human and mistakes will be made or can be made. But if you're stressed, frustrated, take a break. Put down the book and everything, take a little walk, take a deep breath, and come back and attempt it again. And also utilize your resources. Humans are resources too. Call a friend, a teacher, whoever you need. Ask for encouragement if you need it, if you need assistance. Reach out to persons. At St. Helens, there's a mentorship academy. And to all the different principals who might be watching our schools, the sixth formers, if you have a sixth form program, having a mentorship aspect is really good. And that's where the older sisters or brothers assist the younger ones with their SPAs, encouragement, whatever you need. Utilize the persons around you in your different spaces. And just remember that God is with you in everything that you do. And it might seem like the end of the world with all those SBAs, but I promise you, after you'll say it was so easy. And thank God.
Thank you so very much, Tasheera. All the best in your future endeavors. And I'm sure her name will be one that you'll hear in the very, very near future as a champion of so many different causes representing youth. On behalf of our team here at Sip and Chat, I want to say thank you so much, Tasheera. It's such a pleasure having you in Kingston.
Thank you.
And I know it's not Jamaica. And it's just as beautiful, and so are the other parishes of this very, very special country. And we're very proud of you as a society because you continue to hold your head high. Congratulations again, and all the best in your future endeavors.
Thank you so much.